The movie begins at Moyoung High School, a place that appears to the public as a model school, clean, ideal, and completely free of any kind of bullying or violence. All the students look neat, cheerful, and overly happy. But what no one knows is that the school has a dark side, ruled by a gang of brutal students who honestly deserve to be beaten with slippers. They bully everyone, and no one can stand up to them. This is where we meet Sue, a teacher who has just been hired on a temporary 3-month contract. She's doing everything she possibly can, working with her hands and teeth, giving it her all, hoping she'll be made permanent. Because of that, all the staff at school take advantage of her, constantly dumping their work on her and using her as much as they can. Eventually, she reaches her breaking point, and like any strong, independent woman, when things get too much, she goes into the bathroom to cry in private. While she's there, she accidentally overhears some teachers talking about last year's temporary teacher, poor guy, who couldn't handle the students' bullying and sadly ended up taking his own life. When Sue leaves the bathroom, one of the senior teachers pulls her aside and tells her she needs to talk to her about something extremely important. She then shows Sue a video of those same students harassing an elderly woman in the street. The purpose is clear, to show her how vicious and heartless those kids really are, and how no one ever bothered to discipline them properly. After shocking her with the video, the teacher tells her, "You're lucky you haven't taught their class yet, but take my advice. While you're with them, pretend to be dumb. Act like you don't understand anything they say. That's the only way you'll protect yourself and survive the few days you have left here. And if they start fighting, never, ever try to interfere. Let them solve it themselves." She also warns her to be careful around everyone, but especially Han Young, the most violent and aggressive among them. Later, we see Sue at a sports club where we learn that she's actually a champion in judo, taekwondo, karate, basically every combat sport God ever created. She even has 6 gold medals in different disciplines, but she gave all of that up when she finally found a teaching job. After finishing her training and heading home, she sees the poor, elderly woman from the video sitting behind a small food cart on the street. None of the shop owners want her standing in front of their stores, and they all keep chasing her away. Sue feels sorry for her, so she buys everything the woman has, just so she can go home and rest. The old woman is overjoyed and spends the whole time praying for Sue and blessing her. In the following days, Sue is genuinely happy with her job. She spreads positivity everywhere, showering students with encouragement and smiles. She keeps telling herself that she'll ignore the bullying, for now, just until she gets a permanent contract. Then and only then, she'll be able to stand up to those filthy monsters with confidence. But one day, while walking through the hallway, she notices one of her students standing there, clearly upset. She approaches him to ask what's wrong, only to discover that Han Young is the one holding him there and beating him mercilessly. She quickly hides before Han Young notices her. But immediately after, she feels ashamed of herself and thinks, "Why am I hiding? I'm the teacher here. He has no right to do this." Still, her colleague's warning echoes in her head: protect your life. Never get involved in fights. Before making any reckless decision, she reminds herself to say, "It's none of my business," 10 times. But in the end, she simply can't stand the injustice happening to Jun, the helpless boy being beaten senselessly. Jun is completely powerless. He can't even move because Han Young threatened to kill his grandmother if he tried to resist. Sue wants to intervene and put an end to this disgusting scene, but another student, hiding behind a door, warns her that interfering would be extremely dangerous. He tells her that Han Young is protected, his mother is a lawyer, and his father is the chief of police. No matter what happens, no one will ever be able to prove anything against him. Armed with this information, Sue decides she must act smart. She pretends to be talking on the phone and casually walks down the hallway, just as Han Young charges at Jun to hit him again. At that exact moment, she violently kicks Han Young in the leg, then immediately throws herself to the ground, pretending she tripped and fell. She starts yelling, "Who plays like this in the hallway? Have you lost your minds? That fall really hurt!" She keeps asking Han Young if he's okay and even insists on taking him to the clinic. When he refuses, she turns to Jun and scolds him sarcastically for wearing a plastic bag over his face, telling him to hurry back to class because recess is over. She walks away feeling proud, happy that she managed to do something. But Jun is exhausted with life itself. he starts thinking seriously about ending it all. When he goes to complain to the principal and teachers, they tell him, "Why don't you transfer to another school? That way you'll be more comfortable." As if that's a solution. In reality, they're all complicit with Han Young. They know exactly what's happening, but no one dares to touch him. The biggest problem is that June turns to Sue for help without knowing that she herself is just a temporary employee who could be replaced at any moment. In the end, their situations aren't very different at all. She goes home devastated, unable to stop thinking about him, not knowing what to do. That night, she remembers her father, how he always encouraged her and told her, never give up. Even if you die while fighting for your rights, never surrender. The next day, she returns to school determined. She goes straight to the rooftop where Han Young and his friends usually hang out and supervise their dirty business. She politely asks to speak with him, but he's rude, shameless, and poorly raised. He mocks her, asking if she's interested in him or something, and keeps behaving in a deliberately provocative way. Eventually, she gives up and walks away. As she heads downstairs, chaos erupts. Someone has reported Han Young's behavior to the education committee. His mother arrives, ready to burn the place down, threatening to expose everyone and file lawsuits for defaming her son. She even brings her lawyer to speak the language of the law. What she doesn't know is that Ms. Jung is well-educated and prepared. She calmly responds, explaining that none of their threats actually hold any legal weight. The lawyer backs off and suggests settling the issue quietly. At that moment, Han Young's mother slaps him across the face, blinds him with humiliation, and throws him out of the job he was never fit for in the first place. After that, she lashes out at Ms. Jung, beating her simply because she dared to talk about rules and laws in front of her. When the principal tries to calm her down, she attacks him as well. At that moment, Sue steps forward, sits directly in front of her and says, "I'm the one who sent the report." She keeps begging her to forgive her, but the woman coldly orders the principal to replace Sue immediately. All of this happens while her son is standing behind the door, gripping June by the back of his neck, forcing him to watch the humiliation unfolding, just to make sure he understands that he'll never escape his grip again. After his mother leaves, Han goes to the principal and suddenly says he doesn't want Sue to be fired. Not out of kindness, but because keeping her around would make it easier for him to torment her. If she left, he'd probably get bored and turn his attention back to June if he didn't obey. That night, Han follows Sue to the restaurant along with his group of junkie friends. They harass her non-stop, mocking her and asking how much she gets paid per hour to live in such a place. Then that smug-faced brat tells her she wasn't fired today thanks to him, so she should be thanking him instead of getting upset. To her credit, Sue endures all their stupidity and provocation. Honestly, it's a miracle she doesn't grab them and tear every single one of them apart. In the end, she chooses to walk away and leave them behind. But while she's walking alone in the street, a drunk man bumps into her and starts hitting her, demanding she apologize. She reaches her limit and beats him senseless. After that, she runs home, grabs the cat mask, and heads straight to the basketball court where Han is. There, she finds him beating up the opposing team simply because they're playing better than his own. That's when she decides to teach him a lesson, the hard way. She attacks him brutally, smashing his face and breaking an entire row of his teeth. By the time the police arrive, everyone has already fled and abandoned the scene. The next day, the news spreads across the entire school. Everyone is secretly happy about what happened, even the teachers. They pretend to be upset, of course, because it would be improper to celebrate. When Han comes to school and enters his classroom, he finds a cat drawing on his desk, clearly meant to mock him. Furious, he rips it off and slams it onto the ground, smashing everything in sight, unable to figure out who did this to him. At that moment, Ms. Jung enters the classroom after hearing the noise and tells him that this chaos is a violation of school rules. He ignores her completely and storms out, burning with anger, wondering who could have marked him like that. He's certain it's not anyone from the school. There's no one there with skills like that. At the same time, Sue is excitedly telling her police officer friend everything that happened. She's practically glowing with joy, but he's worried and warns her that pushing things too far is dangerous. If she draws too much attention, her real identity will be exposed, and then they'll bury her under legal charges without mercy. We then return to the corrupted gang, who are bored and looking for entertainment. They drag Jun along to torture him again, making him hate his life even more than he already does. Completely exhausted, Jun runs to Sue's family restaurant just to catch his breath. That's when he finally confronts Sue and tells her he knows she's the cat. He figured it out a long time ago. He begs her to help his friend and take revenge on those monsters. Meanwhile, the restaurant owner, Sue's father, has already prepared 2 meals for Jun and his grandmother so they can eat and rest. But Jun is out of time. He grabs a knife, determined to kill Han and rid the world of his evil once and for all. When he arrives, he finds that the cat has already beaten Han badly and taught him more than a lesson. Still, Jun rushes forward to attack Han with the knife, but Sue blocks him with her hand, deliberately letting herself get injured so the plan won't fall apart. She's not protecting Han out of sympathy, far from it. She's protecting Jun's future, refusing to let him destroy his life over a worthless monster like Han. The problem is that the other kids are standing around filming everything as if they're watching a movie shoot instead of real people being beaten to death. Soon after, the restaurant owner, Sue's father, arrives and carries Jun away after he suffers a complete nervous breakdown. He takes his daughter to the hospital, where doctors discover she lost a massive amount of blood and could have easily died. Her father is overwhelmed with guilt. He realizes he failed her and that staying silent about those kids was never an option. So later, he takes the mask and goes back to confront them himself. But the truth is, they teach him a lesson instead, beating him brutally and swelling one of his eyes shut. The next day, Sue starts packing her things, preparing to leave the hospital and return to work. Her friend keeps begging her to stay longer so the wound doesn't reopen, but she insists, telling him she'll be careful and not to worry. She also asks him not to mention the incident at all for Jun's sake, so the poor boy's future won't be destroyed. When she steps outside and sees her father's face, now looking like a mashed tray of fries, she's devastated. She's angry that he went after those kids and hurt himself. She wants to walk away, but suddenly Ms. Jung steps out of the elevator. Of course, the first thing she asks is, "What are you doing here?" Sue replies calmly that she came with her father because a buffalo head-butted him in the eye. Yes, an actual buffalo, just like it looks. Ms. Jung laughs and says, "No worries, the artist will recover. I'm actually here to visit my sick sister. I'm free, not married." Then she adds, "By the way, I'm not married either. Can you imagine?" Thankfully, Sue cuts off this awkward matchmaking moment instantly, grabs her father, who's clearly suffering from late-stage adolescence, and walks away. As they walk down the road, her father is flooded with memories of the times he was harsh with her in the past. He keeps crying nonstop, apologizing over and over, while she pretends to be asleep just to escape that moment. But in the end, she can't take it anymore and says, "All right, please, just look ahead before you drive us straight into a canal." The next day, Han shows up at school with his gang, scanning every student, searching for anyone with an injured eye or a wounded left hand, because that would mean they'd found the Cat Man. Anyone who dared to object to their questioning was beaten half to death. It didn't matter whether it was a boy or a girl, but despite all the chaos, they still failed to find who they're looking for. Meanwhile, the senior teachers finally receive the news that Sue has been officially approved for a permanent position. Ms. Jung rushes to tell her immediately, bursting with excitement, but asks her to keep it a secret until the decision is announced publicly. Sue is overjoyed and runs into an empty room to call her friend and share the good news. Suddenly, that punchable-faced bastard appears in front of her and says, "How are you, Cat? I figured you out." Then he starts beating her viciously. When he's done, he tells her he'll give her time until the day of the school festival. If she's truly brave, she should meet him in the boxing ring. Otherwise, the video of her cute little chick holding a knife will be sent straight to the police with a single click, and after that, good luck finding a lawyer. She's furious at his behavior and tells him, "We're not playing games. Don't you feel even a little guilt for what you're doing?" He laughs in her face and replies, "Guilt is for beggars like you, not me." All of this happens while Ms. Jung is standing outside and hears everything, but she can't bring herself to speak. After that, Sue notices Jun's repeated absences from school. When she looks into it, she discovers that he submitted a transfer request. She immediately goes to his house to check on him. There, she meets his grandmother, who's crying uncontrollably, terrified for him. She begs Sue to help him and promises to give her anything she can. Sue rushes up to the rooftop and finds Jun standing on the edge about to jump. She speaks to him gently, telling him he's strong and brave and that he doesn't need to kill himself just to escape a bunch of filthy trash like them. She grabs onto him, crying, refusing to let him jump. At that moment, Jun remembers the first time he ever stood up to those boys when they were harassing his grandmother in the street, throwing all the food she was selling onto the ground. He had begged them to stop. Instead, they beat him mercilessly until he lost all strength. They even forced him to eat food off the ground just so they'd leave his grandmother alone. Then they warned him that if he ever tried to expose them, they'd kill her immediately. Sue comforts him, telling him none of this is his fault. Instead of ending his life and leaving his poor grandmother alone, she urges him to work together with her until they take those monsters down once and for all. She makes him promise to attend the school festival. On the day of the festival, Han distributes dozens of cat masks to his friends and declares, "Darkness must defeat the light." Yes, exactly like that. The festival kicks off with a massive celebration filled with dancing, chaos, and pure corruption. Sue's colleagues congratulate her on officially becoming a full-time teacher at last. Ms. Jung eagerly waits for the Catman to appear, hoping he'll finally teach that brat some manners, and maybe remind her of her younger days. Sue tells her to stay quiet because she doesn't know anything. Inside, Sue is overwhelmed with worry, standing alone while people celebrate all around her, completely unaware of what's coming. Suddenly, her old self reaches out and pulls her through the crowd toward the front. She remembers every moment of strength she's ever had in her life. Gathering her courage, she leaves the festival to prepare herself for the fight. At the same time, Han is pumping iron, training his stamina and resistance so he can defeat her. Moments later, he steps into the ring as the crowd chants his name. He waits for Sue until she finally arrives wearing the mask. No one knows her true identity except him and two others. As the clock ticks, memories flood our minds. The match begins because one of them is going to fall. From the very first punch, Han charges at her like a raging bull on steroids and starts pounding her mercilessly. He's completely brutal, beating her non-stop, and even tries to rip the mask off her face. Her hair comes loose, and the crowd starts murmuring, confused. Why does this guy have such long hair? And then it finally hits them. She's a woman, not a man. When her father sees her getting beaten like that, by anyone and everyone, he loses it and tries to rush in to stop the madness, but the crowd holds him back. On the other side of the ring, she struggles to defend herself, managing to land a couple of weak slaps. But honestly, he doesn't even give her a second to breathe. Then she sees Jun standing there devastated, about to cry for her. That sight gives her a massive adrenaline rush. She suddenly snaps back, slaps Han twice in rapid succession, and climbs higher onto the ring, ready to finally give him the John Cena move she's been dreaming of for years. She slams him so hard that his face practically glitches like a broken screen. He starts screaming like a madman. At that moment, she reaches up to remove the mask, sending Ms. Jung into full panic mode. She screams at her not to take it off, but Sue's head is like an old, busted car engine. Once it starts, it doesn't stop listening to anyone. The second she removes the mask, the entire crowd is shocked to discover she's the new teacher. But for the bullied kids, it doesn't matter whether she's a teacher or a cook. All that matters is that she's finally taking revenge on that toxic frog of a man. They start cheering her on as she keeps beating him mercilessly. As the crowd chants her name louder and louder, she gets even more fired up until she lands the final knockout blow. Han collapses, completely unable to stand. That's when the principal comes running in, panicking, threatening her, telling her she's ruining her life by attacking a student. But the student himself interrupts and shouts, "Stay out of it, you coward! Don't interfere at all. I came here today ready to fight. Either I win or I die." Long story short, the two of them keep trading blows until she delivers a devastating kick that sends him flying off the ring. He crashes right at Jun's feet, exactly as she promised. At that point, his face looks like a squashed pie that got kneaded inside a delivery box while riding a motorbike at full speed. A few days later, Han's girlfriend exposes him by releasing all the videos she had. After that, the police grab him by the neck once they uncover the countless crimes he committed, including the fact that a teacher had taken his own life because of him. Eventually, calm returns. The school, the students, everyone can finally breathe again. But one day, Sue notices a new girl at school being bullied just like before. And that's when she realizes the story isn't really over. And that's where our movie ends.